What is up, duelists? You know what they say, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. So I set out on a mission this week and I brought Malice to locals just to make sure it's actually dead, to see how much potential the deck still has. Kind of as a joke as well, because people have been saying when I hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, hey, you should play Cybers to celebrate. And so I don't think they thought I would actually do it, but I actually did it. I went to locals, I played Malice. Here I am to report on how that went and whether the deck is still alive or not. So let me know if you thought this was a fun little project and what you thought of the video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And also a huge shout out to my locals. This is not sponsored at all, but I've been very happy with how my local has been growing recently. So if you're located in Germany, feel free to check out the Deck, Dice, and Dungeon locals in Gießen. Once again, not sponsored, but I've just been happy to see the local scene grow there. So I wanted to give it a little shout out. But yeah, hope you enjoyed today's video. Let's get started. All right, and as a certified Cybers expert, of course, I also have a well-tested deck list for you guys. We're running the maximum Malice cards with 3 March here, 3 Chessy Cat. Of course, I'm going to play the Malice card that draws cards. 2 White Rabbit, 1 Dormouse, 3 Backup Adignister, 1 Wizard. Once again, it draws cards, so Allure of Darkness is in here. 2 Malice in Underground, 1 Malice in the Mirror, a Terraforming, a Gold Sark, and then everyone is playing MTP07, of course, because it is part of your disruptions. But I also put in a TB11. Most builds I've seen online, of course, I have done 0 testing with Malice in months now, but I've played against a bunch, and of course, I've been following the trends that people have been playing a second trap, and so I didn't want to play all 3, and I figured this one was the better one to draw because it actually lets you play through hand traps. I didn't want to play the GWC. I felt like that has lost a lot of value without Whitebinder in the mix, so I just play TB11, and that is the engine, which leaves us with room for 17 non-engine, which is 3 Fualos, 3 Ash Blossom, 2 Bell, 2 Bystials, which are kind of like extenders as well. They are also phenomenal extenders while being good cards against decks like Yami. A Dimension Shifter, yeah, it's here. 3 Impulse and 3 Imperm. I feel like going into the tournament, this felt like the strong point of the deck was that it still gets to play so much strong non-engine. I don't expect the grind game to be as powerful as it used to be without Whitebinder, but I'm expecting the non-engine to carry a lot of the games for me. If I can just pull off some basic Malice combos, draw some cards, make some half boards, and then have like Ash Impulse behind that, that should be pretty good. So that was the main deck. And then for the extra deck, 2 Lingaribo, 1 Link Disciple. Link Disciple is in here so that you have another attribute in the mix. Of course, technically Lingaribo is the better Link 1, but Link Disciple is a light for access code talker. Link Spider in case we get nibbed, Almirage in case we want to turn our hand traps into a Cybers, because that's what all hand traps aspire to be, right? They cannot imagine anything more beautiful than being turned into a Cybers. SP Little Knight, Cybers Wicked, Dark the Dark Charmer in case we ever have to get another extra body or we want to crash and get like March here. Haggard Lizardos, Red Ransom, Heart Scripter, Eco Talker Heat Soul because it draws cards, Access Code Talker, Allied Code Talker, and a Typhon, which I don't know if it's going to come up, but it's here. And for the side deck, we're doing a very basic 3 Nibiru's for the combo heavy decks and Yummy decks, 3 Retaliating Sea, mostly for Draco Tail, 3 Perulia, mostly for Radiant Typhoon, Vanquish Soul, and stuff like that. And then because, I mean, if we're going Malice, we might as well play the really fun cards, 3 Mistaken Arrest and 3 Dimensional Fissure for going first, which paired with the ability to draw some cards with Allure and Chessy Cat, I'm expecting to auto-win a bunch of games post-side going first, which, I mean, that's kind of what Malice is trying to do. So that is the deck list. I want to keep it simple here because it is ultimately just locals, and I'm not a Malice expert, so I'm not going to give you a super in-depth, long deck profile on this because I just, like, threw together a list that I thought made sense. I just wanted to showcase that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at some of the games I played at locals. If you want to see the full locals, I obviously went over all of the games on my stream. So there is going to be a VOD of it. If that would be in this video, though, it would kind of be way too long with every single game in there. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more footage of Josh playing Malice, then you can check out the links to the Plus and the VOD channel down below. I have other YouTube channels where you can watch the full stuff. And of course, I mean, you can just follow me on Twitch to catch this stuff live. Without further ado, let us jump into some locals Malice gameplay. I never thought I would say that. Now, before we hop into the games and you actually get to see me play some Malice, it is time to talk about the sponsor of today's video. After 15 years with the same office chair, it was finally time for a serious upgrade. So I was very happy that I was approached by flexispot and they sent me their newest model, the flexispot Ergonomic C7 Morpher. It arrived in just a couple of boxes, everything well packed and clearly organized. It was super easy to build, just 7 easy steps. Came together in a couple of minutes, and then I set it up at my desk, and let me tell you, it is very comfortable. Considering how much time I spent at this desk as a streamer and gamer, I really wanted something comfortable and something that would last long. You have a breathable mesh backrest, a sturdy base, and a lot of adjustable elements designed for ergonomic support. It even does come with a footrest. For long days at the desk, comfort like this can really make a huge difference. Also, Charlie has already approved of the chair. Flexispot also offers a wide range of other ergonomic products and furniture for office and home office, so feel free to check them out in the description down below if you also want to support the channel a little bit. All the info is in the description. All right, and the first round we're jumping into is round number 2. I've already won round 1 against Vanquish Soul, and now I am going second in round number 2. And we are opening a Fualos and 2 Bystials against Radiant Typhoon, which the Bystials are not great in this matchup. Of course, they're not going to be a disruption, at least. I can still use them as extenders. But typically, Radiant Typhoon, not the weakest deck to Moltrami Fualos, so I don't have the greatest hopes here when they discard the Eldam for the Vision and then special another Eldam. But we'll see how it goes. They add Crocea to their hand. And then activate Chant. So they've got a lot of engine going on over there. And they search Megala. This is one of the reasons why I didn't shotgun the Fuva in response to the Vision. Of course, risking that they might draw an Ash Blossom, but I think Radiant Typhoon doesn't necessarily have to Ash Fuva anyways. But this way, they've committed a search for the Megala, which is now a significantly weaker card into the Moltrami. And it does resolve, which is nice. Of course, dropping the Moltrami on an open game state here is necessary, otherwise they get to make the Link 2 for free. And they special summon Swen to search for another Radiant Typhoon quick play. Add Ascendance. And this is where I guess they're going to have to make the decision of how many draws they're going to give me for this Fualos. They special out Megala, and then they go for the Link 2, which is what I would assume that I would always get the 1 draw. And it is a second Moltrami, which is not phenomenal, but they do have the Megala, so maybe there's a chance that they activate the effect to summon, thinking it's not worth, or it's worth 1 draw to get to Vararoon or something. So they go Ascendance and then self-MST it. This is obviously going to trigger the Vararoon to place the trap card, add an MST to their hand. Vararoon is going to activate. Then they are thinking about their chainlings here, on whether they want to activate the Megala or not, and I'm really hoping they do, and they do activate it. And they also activate Ascendance and Vararoon in hand. And I chain another Fualos, which is going to just be basically an upstart Goblin here. But it still is much better for me that they do this. So I'm getting 2 draws, 1 from each Fuwa here, which is going to put me up to 6 cards. And I'm going to find a Chessy Cat and a Chessy Cat. So my hand is now 3 Chessy Cat. Balatro a hand. All right, and they get the mandate. And I have, well, technically my hand, if you think about it, my hand sounds really good because I have 3 extenders as well as a normal summon. Well, I have the same normal summon 3 times, but technically my hand has a starter and 3 extenders, which sounds really good. But once you realize, hey, if this Chessy Cat leaves the field with, like, if the Phonix shuffles the Chessy Cat into the deck, then this is actually 0 extenders because the Bystials and the backup do not work if they remove the Chessy Cat off the board. So I'm basically expecting to scoop it up immediately as the Phonix shuffles the Chessy Cat into the deck. But they decide to not do it. All right, so this is a quick moment where I want to say, be nice to my opponents. Whenever I do locals vlogs, I don't want to see any insults to my opponents in the comments down below. Yes, not shuffling in the Chessy Cat here for the Phonix is a misplay, and I will explain in a second why that is. But still, keep it nice. All right, we're at locals to have fun. I make mistakes, my opponent make mistakes. Feel free to discuss the games in the comments down below. Feel free to point out the mistakes, but please, no one insult any of my opponents. I will remove those comments if it happens, because please be nice to people. All right. The reason why I think it's good to remove the Chessy Cat in this instance as the Radiant Typhoon player is because they basically have answers for every possible extender I could have, even for multiples, right? They have Vararoon to negate a Marchair in hand or a Bystial. They have Mystical Space Typhoons to negate cards like Allure of Darkness, Gold Sarcophagus, Terraforming, and even the Malice Field spell, and even multiple at that, right? So I do think at this point, they told me after the game that they were trying to get the value off of shuffling 2 with Phonix, but I think in this instance, realistically, just getting rid of the Chessy Cat on summon is is the right play to do, because they cover all possible extenders, even multiple of them. And of course, shuffling the Chessy Cat into the deck actually makes it so that Bystials aren't extenders. So like March here is the one monster extender that they can't negate with MST, but they have Varroon for that, right? So I think using the Phonics here to shuffle the Chessy Cat was the correct play. The reason why I don't activate the Chessy Cat to draw here is I feel like that probably just gets negated by Varroon or MST. And at this point in time, I don't really have a great way to make the Chessy Cat resolve. And I just want to make sure that the Chessy Cat hits the graveyard as soon as possible. So as soon as they okay my normal summon, I'm like, okay, immediately link that off so that the Bystials and the March here in hand are extended. And I do make Lingeribo. And they also, I mean, if you're not shuffling in the Chessy Cat, then you also shouldn't shuffle in the Lingeribo, so they okay that one. And then I activate Backup, which is the extender that requires me to have a monster on the board, so I want to use it first. And it also gets me to another extender if it resolves. They think about chaining Mandate here. They change their mind because they only have 3 spells in the grave, including MST. So if they use it here, the Varroon negate is offline. So they let me summon the backup, and they also let me search with the backup. And since I've already normal summoned, and I can't really rely on having a monster on the board for Wizard, I'm gonna go for a March Hare here. And I'm gonna discard another Chessy Cat because I got 3 of those. And then also, they are deciding once again to not use the quick play and then the Phonics here, which allows me to go into SP Little Knight. And SP is really good here because it basically checks 2 interruptions from them no matter what happens here. I'm going to activate the SP, I'm going to target the Varroon, and even if the Varroon negates, I can still chain the SP to try and get the Phonics off the board. And if they don't negate, well, then the Varroon is gone forever, which is good for me. This is going to force 2 interactions, basically guaranteed. So SP is going to activate and target the Varroon. They're going to use the Varroon to negate it. I chain SP to get rid of the Phonics because I really don't want them to have the removal. To which they chain Droplet, sending the Varroon because it's already used, which is going to negate the SP, but it is going to let me keep the body for the SP. And I still got 5 cards in hand. I have the SP on the board, and I got 3 extenders to play with at this point. So I'm actually not feeling too bad here. And I think about, it's one thing, I think about using the March Hare as an extender here because it's the one that they know about. Like using Magnamute here basically tells them I have another extender in hand. But I think it is important to keep the March Hare in hand here to threaten the Chessy Cat, right? To draw 2 and banish the March Hare. I could also Chessy Cat, banish Chessy Cat, but I don't really want to, as they set up the life points on the phone here. So yeah, the Magnamute and the Chessy are on the chain here. They have, I know they have 2 MSTs face down. I don't know the last set card. Or actually, no, I do know they have Ascendance. So they are now going to use the Mandate to draw a card because they no longer need the MST in the graveyard for the Varroon to negate, since they've already done that. And I think about belling it, but I decide to hold the bell for the Ascendance because Ascendance re-summoning Crocea is really threatening. A lot of follow-up here in case I can't go for game this turn. So Chessy Cat hits the board. And they draw a card. And this is where the dopamine hits because I activate Chessy Cat, I try to draw with it, and let's see if they allow it or not. They chain MST onto their own set card. And this is where the Bystials come in. Even against Radiant Typhoon, a matchup where the Bystials are usually not dead or not useful, they can actually be used to chain block MST so that they cannot chain Mandate to it. This is how the Bystials actually have a lot of value here. So I activate Druisworm onto the Chessy Cat, and I bell the Ascendance that they targeted with MST, which has a very unique ruling quirk. Because Bell negates the activation, the card is not treated as being on the field anymore, which is the same as Wanted. If you activate Hollowed Azamina, you chain Wanted, and then the Wanted gets belled. You cannot send the Hollowed Azamina you cannot send the Wanted with Hollowed Azamina because it is not considered on the field if the activation was negated, which I believe, I'm like 99% sure that means they cannot reset Ascendance here because MST doesn't destroy it because the activation was negated. It's not considered to be on the field. which I wasn't 100% sure in this game, but I do think that is how it works. It doesn't end up making a difference in this one, but I think that is how that works. So the Druid's Worm hits the board. The Chessy Cat draws me 2 cards. I think it was, what was it? Allure and Fuba. And we just all of a sudden have 4 bodies on the board. We still have gas left in hand, and there's just 1 MST and a Phonics left that we have to play through. So I go into Red Ransom with SP and Chessy Cat to search for another card. And I feel like at this point, still one thing that holds up against Malice, if Malice is going second and ever gets to this many monsters on the board, it is a real threat. So I get to Malice in Underground. So I have 5 cards left in hand. And now I think once this Heart Scripter is about to hit the board, I think the game is effectively just over if they don't have Sheena or Nibiru in hand, and I'll explain in a second why that is. So the Heart Scripter hits the board, Druid's Worm is going to send the Megala to the graveyard, and now it's basically checkmate. Because their interaction is MST, and then after the MST was successfully resolved, they have Phonics, right? So what I can do, the Cryptor just basically checks this, because if they activate MST, I can just chain Cryptor to it, banish the Phonics, which A, chain blocks the mandate, and B, the Phonics is gone, so it cannot trigger on a new chain. So I'm basically locking out both of their interactions here. They cannot MST negate this Allure because I have Cryptor to chain to it, which would also get rid of the Phonics, so that they have no choice but to let the Allure go through. And I draw Bell and Shifter. So we get rid of that Shifter, Lightning Speed. We don't need it anymore. The Bell is potentially okay for next turn, but we've used it this turn already, so it's not going to help here. I do have March here in hand that is still live. So I decide to activate the Heart Scripter on an open game state here, which forces them to chain MST. And then I just chain March here, so they can't mandate. So basically same thing as before. I'm just going to banish the Phonics, and then they are out of interruptions on the field that I can see. Maybe they have more in hand, but for now, that is all they got. And then we can push through. Of course, we still have the Malice and Underground in hand in case something goes incredibly wrong. So MST on mandate, March here, chain, so they cannot use the mandate to negate. Gonna banish the Red Ransom for the March here. Cryptor is going to resolve, shuffling the Chessy Cat, banishing the Phonics. On a new chain, I'm going to be activating the Red Ransom. And I still have not used, believe it or not, I have not used Dormouse or White Rabbit this game. So the possibilities I still have are pretty much endless. And I have 4 cards in hand. I have the field spell still in hand. Even if they have, at this point, a Sheena or a Nibiru, it probably is too late to save them. But at this point, we are just going through the motions. Go for White Rabbit. White Rabbit here is a little bit better into Nibiru, I think, because it gives me something on summon, whereas if I Dormouse, that doesn't give me anything. Yep. And I don't need the Dormouse in this game to go for game. They draw another card with the Mandate here, which if you didn't know, that card is not hard once per turn. If you reset it with the Link monster, you can draw again, which also pushes all their monsters now by 600, I believe, which is interesting. And I just clarified with my opponent in German, of course, that SP was negated, and that's why I still can attack directly. So indeed, if they don't have anything left in their hand, the game is going to end this turn. And now that I've successfully set a trap with the White Rabbit, I'm also basically protected from Nibiru, because I can always, if they Nibiru, I can chain MTP07, I can banish my Cryptor for cost, and then once the Nibiru has resolved, the Cryptor is going to return after, right? So I know basically as soon as this trap has hit the board, I'm safe from Nibiru or Sheena. I'm always going to have the Cryptor on the board still. I turned the March here into the Link Disciple because it is a light Link 1. So I can make an access code with 2 attributes in the graveyard to pop. So I gain 3000 off of Red Ransom, and I just pop 2 of their monsters, and I go to the battle phase, and with the trap phase down to reset the Heart Scripter, that is going to be game. And I'm not gonna lie, this was a fun game. This was a fun game. I can't believe I'm saying it. But to be honest, I can't believe I'm saying it, because one of the issues I had with Malice was never that it wasn't fun to play. It was that it wasn't fun to play against. But in this game, genuinely, I think it was an interesting gameplay, especially because I was going second. I had a bunch of extenders. They didn't get rid of my normal summon. Of course, if they had interacted with my normal summon, they would have won the game much sooner. But it is what it is. That's how I won this game. It was a fun one to play. And I ended up winning this match 2-0, which I can't cover in this one because it's just going to be too much. All right, the next game, I'm going first. This is round number 4. At this point, I am 3-0. And I'm going first with Allure of Darkness, Malice in the Underground, Malice in the Mirror, Fuwa, and Bell. So very reliant on resolving Malice in Underground here to play with this hand. Luckily for me, it does resolve. And so I'm going to banish a Dormouse. And while I was doing this, my opponent was going through all the limitations on Malice because they wasn't sure what was on the ban list. Not enough, buddy. Not enough. All right, Dormouse gets summoned. Activate Dormouse effect. I get hit with Imperm, which is not good. And then on res, I get hit with Fuwa, which puts me in a really awkward spot. And let me tell you, I'm slamming down this Allure. I don't care. I'm activating this Allure. For a moment, I'm thinking about setting Malice in the Mirror here, just in case I have to discard my hand. But then I'm like, nah, dude, I'm gambling already. If I hit a Chessy Cat or a March Hare, I need this Malice in the Mirror in my hand to be able to banish it for the Chessy Cat. So I'm just risking it all. I'm risking it all. All right, Allure of Darkness. First card is Allure. Second card is March Hare. I'm the best. We activated Pot of Greed, banish March Hare, get it back to hand. And now I'm trying to figure out what the best line is here. And I think the one that I came up with was pretty neat. So I'm gonna end up linking up the Dormouse into a Lingeribo, which is going to give them a first draw, but it's going to enable me to make a really cool play, I think, which is March Hare in hand, which does resolve. And I'm going to banish the Malice in the Mirror here from my hand to special the March Hare. Now I'm going to go Malice in the Mirror, target the Dormouse, and that is going to give me a White Rabbit in hand to activate my second Allure of Darkness. And then I can bring the White Rabbit onto the field. That is my plan as I'm doing this. So I'm grabbing the White Rabbit, not Chessy Cat, because at the moment I don't have anything to banish in hand for Chessy Cat. I would have to draw it with Allure of Darkness. And then I activate the Allure. It resolves, of course. I mean, the first one resolves, so they don't have Ash. I draw backup and Chessy Cat. This deck, I don't know. This deck just loves me for no reason. I did nothing to deserve this, but the deck loves me today. Chessy Cat comes back, which is even better because now I can Chessy Cat banish the White Rabbit, draw 2 cards, which are Ash Blossom and Druis Worm. And then White Rabbit comes out of the banishment, and I just drew 2 extra non-engine to back my board up under this Fuwa. This is massive because, of course, I can't go for the full board. But at this point, I have Bell, Ash, and Druis Worm in hand. So it's about to get pretty disgusting because I think I'm just going to end up setting MTP07 and making Cryptor. So they're back up to 5 cards in hand after using Imperm and Fuwa. They're going to draw up to 6, but I'm going to have 2 non-target banishes. Ash, Bell, Fuwa. And I also end up summoning the backup Ad Ignister to get a guaranteed March Hare by discarding the Fuwa. So MTP07 on the field. Then we make Heart Scriptor. And then we get ourselves a March Hare from the backup. And then we say good luck, have fun. I mean, it's not... That's the thing, right? This is not unbeatable because there is no White Binder in the mix. So my follow-up is limited in this case, right? Like, if they have a hand that can push through my hand traps here, it's genuinely winnable, which is a feeling that I had about this deck in general. Like, if it goes first, it does... Of course, the full combo is still really good, but that's the case for most Yu-Gi-Oh decks. But in the case where you do get stopped or you do get Charmied, like, your half boards for Malice now are much more beatable than before because you simply don't have the crazy White Binder draw and follow-up potential. So in this game, like, really, I'm relying on non-engine here. Like, my board will not carry this game on its own. Of course, 2 non-target banishes are good, but I'm probably gonna need these hand traps here that I was fortunate enough to draw, because they are on Yummy. So they're gonna reveal Marshmallow and start things off with a special summon of Marshmallow, which I think about banishing with Heart Scriptor, but realistically, since Snatchy is at 1, I feel like it might be better to just let them make the Snatchy here and banish that with the Cryptor. because then that way you get rid of that resource and they have to worry about getting it back somehow. Otherwise, they will have a much harder time. Of course, by allowing the Snatchy, I do allow them to get a field spell, but I can probably keep them off of a body on the board so the field spell won't give them anything. Or I can just decide to banish the field spell if I wanted to, right? If, like, in theory, if I go MTP07, banish the Snatchy, and then Hard Scripter banish the field spell, that's a tough spot for them to be in, right? So that's what I'm trying to aim for, especially since they've already revealed that they have Marshmallow, so they still have their normal summon open. I didn't want to just like use a non-target banish on the Marshmallow here. And they realize this and end up going into Linkaribo here because they are too scared to lose their one of Snatchy, which is understandable. I still decide to banish this, but I think this exchange is still good for me because I got rid of the one of Linkaribo out of their extra deck, which is also somewhat of a resource. It's not as important of a resource as Snatchy, but it is a resource. And I grab a second March Hare here for follow-up. By the way, the reason I searched a March Hare on my turn is because I wasn't sure if the MTP07 was going to resolve, right? They could have had Ash Blossom off the top, and then I wouldn't have a March Hare in hand. So I'd rather have 2 March Hares than 0 if they have Ash. So they use Fractal here, once again showing that they have another way to start playing or an extender. I don't Ash the Fractal immediately because I can just Ash whatever it sends, whether it's Kit or Nerval. They end up going for Nerval here, and since Ash Blossom is not the best against Yummy variations, I think trading Ash for an extender here is pretty good. So I Ash the Nerval, which leaves them with the normal summon to play with, but I do obviously have Druid Worm, Bell, and Heart Scripter still. They normal summon Cupsy, Yummy, so their hand, honestly, their hand was kind of a banger for going second. They had Imperm, Fuwa, and then Marshmallow, Cupsy, and Fractal. That's a pretty good hand. But fortunately for me, this is a deck that is both weak to non-target banishes and also weak to Bystials, so I'm feeling pretty good here because I'm feeling like, okay, I'm going to Cryptor banish this Cupsy as soon as they search, and then I'm going to have Bell for a potential surprise to extend. So it's going to be really hard for them to stay in the Yummy engine, and even if they have somehow another miraculous extender, I have a Bystial still to stop the field spell revive. So I'm feeling pretty safe here. They are thinking about what to add. They're adding Lollipo, which kind of, I feel like at this point, that tells me they have Surprise in hand, unless that's a huge blunder. But I feel like it'd be very basic to search Surprise here if you don't already have it. So I'm expecting them to have Surprise in hand. And of course, with them having the Lollipo in hand now, I want to get rid of the Cupsy. I could, in theory, do the same thing and wait for the Snatchy here and banish that. But in this case, I wanted the Cupsy out of rotation. I wanted to keep them off of that resource in the graveyard that would keep coming back over and over. And if at this point, I'm worried about, like, potentially if they have a way to play through this and they have a way to get comboing, I don't want them to have so many Yummies in rotation to resolve all of their tag outs and their Lollipo Yummy Way revives. So I want to get rid of this Cupsy Yummy for good. I'm putting the Dormouse back into the deck and I banish it. And they have Surprise in hand, hard drawn indeed. I Bell it. And it turns out their card for turn was Imperm and they scoop it up. Which turns out the Linkaribo was actually a really important resource in this game. Alright, just for completion's sake, I'm going to show you game 2 of this match as well. Alright, in game 2, of course, my opponent is going to go first, and you can see my hand is a certified Malice hand. I have I have Shifter, Perulia, Fuba, Retaliating Sea, and backup Adignister. So this is my Malice masterclass, by the way. If you're going second with Malice, just draw hands like this, alright? Draw Shifter, then drop Perulia on your opponent. But there's a very important step here, because as of now, I only have one play. I have backup, which is a play, but it's up against Yummy, and Yummy has a lot of non-engine, so I'm not expecting this backup to be good enough actually here, right? Like, I'm still a little scared because I've drawn 4 hand traps, 1 backup, and 1 non-engine is going to basically end my turn. So the important second step of my Malice masterclass is in moments like this, all right, when your opponent just passes, draw an extender off the top. All right, that's important. Keep that in mind. All right, so we draw Malice and Underground off the top here because we are certified gamers. Normal summon Fuwa, make a link 1, special backup. Spoilers, they end up having exactly 1 hand trap. I make Almirage here, I special backup. They impermit. And then I reveal the Malice in Underground, and at this point they tell me I have a Veiler in hand, and that's the only other non-engine is Effect Veiler, which is also invalidated by Dimension Shifter. Not much to learn from this game, to be honest, other than just sometimes you just have it. I just thought it was funny, that's why I included it. But yeah, that is a certified Malice game if I've ever seen one. So yeah, we end up, I mean, I end up going through the motions here, but at this point it's already like we both know it's over. And this was round 4, so after this round I was 4-0. We played 5 rounds in total because the locals have been growing recently, so we hit I think almost 20 players, which means 5 rounds of Swiss. And I ended up winning round 5 as well against Schmidt Magistus, and ended up going 5-0 with Malice. So we're going to talk about my experience in that in a second, but of course here Cryptor, battle phase, MTB07, banish Cryptor, attack with it again, or at TB11 actually, and then attack for game, and we take down Yummy 2-0 with a little bit of help from Dimension Shifter. All right, 5-0 at locals with Malice. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the deck is not dead, unfortunately. If you want to see all of the games, they're going to be, like I said earlier, on the VOD channel or on the Plus channel. I don't know where I'm going to put them yet, but link to that is going to be in the description down below. What did I think of this deck? Okay, so number 1, was this deck fun to play? Yes. Yes, it was. I had fun. And going second, especially the game against Radiant Typhoon, it felt awesome playing through boards. Of course, if my opponent interrupts properly, then you don't always have a chance, but that's often the case in Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, sometimes you rely on your opponent to make a misplay into your hand, and then it's playable, and then it's fun. The deck doesn't feel as broken anymore, despite of what it looked like in those games. You know, I got very fortunate, I feel like, to get there. And one very important thing is true now that wasn't true before, that makes me feel a lot better about Malice, which is the fact that without Whitebinder, the deck does not auto-win as much anymore going first. This deck going first is very much dependent on non-engine now, which is simultaneously a strength and a weakness of this deck, because the strength is it does get to play a lot of really powerful non-engine. The weakness is if you don't have that non-engine, you might get cooked and your consistency isn't the highest. You know, in a lot of games, I was reliant on top decking a play for turn or drawing well with Allure of Darkness. You know, there was a lot of high rolly moments in that match or in those matches at locals where I just ended up getting lucky and high rolling, but the deck does rely on that more now than before. It is less consistent and less resilient to interruptions now as well, without the Whitebinder getting you a free trap. I do think playing against Nibiru is a lot harder now. I luckily didn't get Nibiru in any of those games, but like if the Radiant Typhoon player had a Nibiru behind their board, I had 0 chance. So it's a lot harder to win through Nibiru in general. That is that. Another thing that I want to point out with this, like, I don't hate combo decks because I find them unfun to play, all right? That was never my argument. My argument was never that Malice wasn't fun, all right? My argument was always Malice is a zero-sum deck because one player is having fun and the other one isn't, because it's a combo deck that auto-wins the game when it goes first. Now that I feel like it doesn't auto-win the game as much anymore when it goes first, even though it's not dead, I'm not super sad with this end result. Like, I think this version of the deck is not as toxic as it used to be without Whitebinder creating infinite follow-up and tearing apart your opponent's graveyard. The deck might be fine now. Of course, cards like Dimension Shifter are a problem on their own, but that's not really a Malice thing, right? Like, this is something that Mitsurugi can play this card, Vanquish Soul can play this card, there's a ton of decks that can play Shifter. The card in general just has to go, right? And then the other thing that makes this deck powerful and keeps it alive, in my opinion, is the combination of draw power paired with very powerful non-engine. But it's not just that, it's also the fact that, like, this deck is kind of good into the non-engine that other people are playing, right? Like, you don't care that much about Ash Blossom in this deck. You don't care that much about Droll and Lockbird, even though you have some draw involved, so sometimes Droll hurts you, but not as much as other decks. You have crazy synergy with some of the most broken stuff in the game, like you can play Dimensional Fissure, Mistaken Arrest without caring. It's, like, pretty flexible in that, so is the deck dead? No, unfortunately not. But the good news is I don't think it's as toxic as it used to be. I don't think it's as top tier as it used to be. So overall, I'm still happy we had this little experiment. Am I going to pick up Malice again? For now, no. I just think I don't want to be in a position where I have to get lucky to win, which I felt like I had to get lucky a lot at that locals to win it. I view this deck a little bit less negatively than I used to, so that's good, I guess. I think without Whitebinder, we can stop hating on this deck for now, which I know might disappoint some of you. I still don't love this deck, but I think it's about time to accept it as part of the format, I suppose, because I don't think they needed to kill Malice. I think if they released that deck without Whitebinder, I think I probably never would have had as much of a problem with it, and they didn't have to completely remove it from the game. As long as they find a way to make it balanced, I think the next step would be looking at the powerful non-engine that these decks use to back up their boards, right? Stuff like Impulse, stuff like Ash, those are like the cards that really shine when you go first and you draw a bunch of cards. Maybe Allure of Darkness deserves to be taken a look at if they don't want to ban another Malice card. I guess that is all things that are out of my control, so I'll just wait and see what they do about it. For now, it is still a good deck. It is still alive, which is not what I was hoping for, but I don't think it's as bad as it used to be. That's how I feel about it for now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time, duelists. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching.